Simply Scuba presents the Deco Stop podcast. Hi guys, and welcome to the Deco Stop. So this is the podcast from Simply Scuba where we talk about all things scuba diving. So I'm Mark, and I'm joined here with Glenn, who, I don't know why we started to call you Glenn because your name's actually Greg.
Yep.
But yeah, we're both instructors, and we used to teach scuba diving, and we know a bit or two. So we thought we'd come up with a podcast to basically chat about scuba diving. And it's quite fun, and that's why you're here, really.
Yeah.
So first of all, today's sponsor is Obsequio. So Obsequio, basically, they service all types of scuba diving equipment, but we'll be talking about them later. But we just want to say a quick thank you for sponsoring today's show. Today is officially the first audio-led Deco Stop. So the first 4? How many have we done?
5, I think.
5?
I think so.
The first few, we did it in front of a camera, but now we are in our audio booth. So you're not going to be seeing our pretty faces, but to paint you a picture, just imagine a sort of a golden cage surrounded by like anti-echo materials. So yeah, hopefully the audio quality is much higher. But yeah, you're not going to see us anymore because let's face it, this is a podcast. You're only supposed to be listening to us. So yes, so follow us on Radio Public. If you don't know what Radio Public is, it's an app. So head over to the App Store or the Play Store, sort of Android and sort of iOS, whatever you sort of have. Then you can download that app and basically listen to our podcast on that. But also Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, you name it, it's all over the place. Just search for the Deco Stop podcast and you will find us. Or well, realistically, you already have because you're listening to us. So we're getting more and more followers on Spotify, and that's really the best metric that we have to basically gauge how much you guys enjoy this. So if you haven't already subscribed, head over to Spotify and search for the Deco Stop and Simply Scuba and hit that subscribe button because it basically tells us that you guys are interested, and we'll keep making them. Don't forget to post any of your questions, queries, comments, corrections, whatever you guys sort of want us to talk about. Head over to our Simply Scuba YouTube channel. On any of the videos, just kind of ask us a question, and then we will answer it in next week's show. And yeah, if we say anything wrong, then put something in that as well. And
correct us.
Yes, we will be more than happy to correct us. We're humble people. We're happy to say that we're wrong. But of course, we try to be as right as we can. Okay, and today's topic that we're going to be talking about later is jacket-style BCDs versus wing-style BCDs. Basically, a lot of people have been sort of very interested in this and sort of asking for our opinion. So we thought, gosh darn it, we'll just do an entire segment on it.
Why not?
Because, it is quite an interesting topic, and it is worth sort of investing in it. And I remember the first time when I was buying a BCD, you kind of don't really know what to go for. So we are going to be talking about that. But first up, we're going to be talking about the news, what's happened in sort of scuba diving news over the past week. What's happened, Greg?
Well, we have got the French sub-wreck was dived at 2.3 kilometres, and that was the Minerva, which went down in 1968. They took a while to find this. I think that you were saying that they unofficially found it.
No, that was the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this was a French submarine that sunk, as you said, in 1968. It sat at like 1.4 miles down. And obviously we're not going to be scuba diving it any day soon. But they sent down some submersibles into the I think it was the Mediterranean, and they found it, and they identified it because they kind of knew where it was, but it'd never really been like pinpointed on a map.
Left a plaque and
Yeah, they left a nice plaque on it, which basically said that we remember you, your sort of friends and family. We haven't forgotten you. We're still thinking about you, which is nice. And I was surprised to hear that it was a French Royal Navy submarine, but it sunk in bad weather.
Yeah.
I thought it might be something to do with with one of the wars, but in 1968 there wasn't much.
Yeah, it was
war.
at snorkel depth, and it had some problem in harsh weather, and that's where it came from. I think they're still trying to find out exactly what happened to it. So,
yeah, I think it's in like 3 pieces.
Yeah,
they
over a
said.
huge bit area of land. Yeah. So the next one, the Bermuda Triangle shipwreck. This has been traced, and this is the Cotopaxi.
Yes.
Went down 95 years ago, and this was the one that they kind of got it through the radio signal, and they kind of knew roughly where it was, and then it's kind of looking properly.
Yeah, they knew where it was heading. There was a like radio. I can't remember whether it was a distress signal or something, but somewhere in Florida picked up the Cotopaxi, and it sank.
Yeah.
People have been diving it since like the 1980s, but they never really knew what it was. It's only until recently where sort of divers and historians and all those kind of stuff have all come together and gone, this is the Cotopaxi. This is what it is. And there's going to be a whole documentary on it on the Discovery Channel, I think. So if you're interested in kind of wreck hunting and sort of what's involved in that, then check it out. I think that goes live sometime in February. I could be wrong. It might be a bit later on.
Really cool subject for wreck hunters.
Yeah, I was given a book. I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, it goes over these two guys in the 1980s, and they're looking for this pirate ship, and it goes all into the history of the pirate and this actual shipwreck, and how they found it, and they basically had this center of operations, and it was all like shifty. It's just like the two of them, and they'd get like sort of rival wreck hunters like come and try and attack them and all this kind of stuff, and it turns out it was like 200 meters down the beach. They were looking at all these different locations where it could be, and they're like, it's right there.
Right, so what's this next one? The skeleton has been found in Tulum Cave, Mexico. It's been dated to 9,900 years old from the Mexican Daily News, this one. This is a lady, they know she was around about, what was it, 5.6 metres or something like that? 5.3 metres?
What, tall or under the water?
Tall, sorry.
She was a giant.
Yeah, huge. But yeah, they found her under there. They've managed to get some information from her. She's got 3 major like blunt force trauma marks onto her head. And they've done some testing of her bones, and she had syphilis.
Yes, because sort of paleontologists and like smart people have basically they've looked at everything, and they kind of figure that she was like ostracized and kicked out of the gang.
Yeah.
And don't know whether they chased her to this cave or whether they took her here or whatever, but they basically they beat her to death. Sorry. That's where she's laid until scuba divers sort of found her while sort of exploring these like cenotes and caves, underwater caves that have since flooded, and they're learning a lot from sort of what they found. They found, I think it's a majority of her bones to the point where they can work out she was like 1.8 meters tall or something. She was like 30 years old. But she didn't have a pleasant death. But,
no, not really. Not a great one. Yeah. Okay, so should we have some nice news?
Yeah, let's shift it up again.
Yeah, come on. This is from the Daily Mail. Divers in the Maldives free a whale shark from the fishing rope. It's all in the video. It's you can see on Mail Online. Really, really cool that is. Nice to see them cutting off the line and freeing the whale shark.
Yeah, it's quite a small whale shark, so a bit of a juvenile who's just sort of got this strop like wrapped around his neck, and the scuba divers jump into action. They cut it free, and it just lets them cut itself free, and then off it swims. So we're seeing more and more of this kind of video, which is just encouraging. People don't just we'll let it be, let nature take its course. It's like actually maybe we should sort of jump in and cut that free.
Yeah, that's not let's do that. So on the last bit, any other news you guys found? Well, the only other news we've got is kind of a bit personal to Simply Scuba. We've got some news about Shaun. Shaun wins the Earthworm Jim Award because Shaun is going to be a daddy. Well done, Shaun.
Yeah.
Hey. Well done, mate.
He honestly didn't know we were going to say that.
No.
I thought you were going to say he joined a Earthworm Jim lookalike competition and won.
I think he just wrote it on my one.
No,
he didn't. Right. Right, so what we got? So what's new in the store?
So new in the store, for those of you that don't know, Simply Scuba, of course, we do sell, well, our primary occupation is selling dive equipment, and that's why we know so much about it, because we get so much coming through our doors. But we also make our own stuff, and we had a few new bits and bobs arrive recently. The first one is our own brand, Simply Scuba Second Stage Shield. So this is it's basically a neoprene sleeve that kind of wraps around your second stage. You're not supposed to use it whilst you're in the water, but it's for when you get out of the water, when you end your dive. It's going to protect your second stage from bumps and scrapes, because the worst thing is as soon as you surface from a dive, you're like taking your BCD and your weight belt off, and you're passing it up to the guy on the rib. He like grabs it, pulls it out of the water, and then just slings it down on the deck of the boat, and I just cry every time.
Don't you touch my apex.
And then he grabs the next guy's BCD and like throws it down tank first onto my stuff, and so we made this this neoprene regulator sleeve. And it just protects your second stage, because a simple piece of neoprene is just going to save your £100 worth of second stage, and it's a lot cheaper than a brand new body for your second stage.
Yeah, nothing better than a nice big scratch on your front cover. Is there? Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, if you buy something like a Scuba A700, it's all like chrome plated. It just looks swish, and then you just got this huge scratch. Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, definitely. But that's doing really well. We're selling really well of those.
Yes. Another one that also came in at the same time. So this is the Simply Scuba neoprene sleeve. So this is for your dive computer or your compass or whatever that you sort of put onto your wrist. And it's a really simple piece of neoprene. But what it basically does is it keeps your dive computer, and more importantly, the straps, nice and tidy. Because I dive between a dry suit and then just somewhere nice warm weather, I'm reluctant to cut that excess strap off my dive computer. So on warm water dives, that just ends up flapping around, and it just looks stupid. So putting this on, it basically stops that from flapping around. It also keeps your dive computer in position, so it's not rolling around, and it also helps prevent it from slipping off your wrist entirely. That really is worst case scenario. I remember my first ever dive with my first dive computer, giant stride entry, and I'm like, I don't even care that my mask is in position, my reg's in. Is my dive computer still on my wrist?
Yeah, definitely.
They say that's the best time to go diving at like inland dive lakes is the weekend after a dive show, because people have bought all this fancy equipment, they've strapped it on themselves, not quite right. They've jumped in and it's fallen off. The weekend after, you just like feel around the bottoms for anything shiny and new.
Lovely.
Not that we condone that or anything.
No. Right, so the diver packages that we offer have been updated.
Yes.
Very, very nice.
Yes.
Looking through those the other day.
Yeah, so basically we... as you buy dive equipment, if you don't know, you can buy each of the individual components and assemble it yourself if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're just starting out, you just want your first set of regulators or whatever, then that can be quite imposing. So what we've done is we basically said, well, I'll tell you what, these regulators and this BCD, if you put that all together, that would be a nice like package for this type of diver. So we've assembled these sort of packages. You basically pick your color or your size, whatever you want, and then we assemble it here. We test it here, because that's the most important thing. Sure, it's not that hard to assemble a set of regulators mechanically, but there are a few pitfalls that if you don't know, you could damage them, and also they need to be balanced properly when you're assembling them so that they don't just free flow. It's best to get an actual regulator technician to actually assemble your stuff. And we do that all for you.
We do.
So that way, basically, you know that when it arrives, it's boom, ready to go diving. Happy days.
Off you go.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, up and coming products. I've seen a couple of your new videos.
Yeah. There are some up and coming stuff. There's even some stuff that I know about that isn't even on the website. I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about it.
Spoilers.
But I will.
Go for
So the first one that came across my desk, that was actually last night. Scuba Pro have a new version of the Mark 19 first stage. Okay. So this is kind of a hybrid between a Mark 25 Evo and the Mark 17. So it's a swivel turret, but it's a sealed first stage. At the moment, they're only running it with the D420. They're saying it's more of a kind of technical regulator, but they've actually had it, I think they've CE tested it against the G260 as well, even though they're not selling it as a package at the moment. I think it's coming. Yeah. So there's a new first stage. We have had a Mark 19 before previously, but this is just a kind of a new version, and that seems fairly hot off the press. Yeah. Other than that, I think that's about it.
Is that it? Nothing, no news from X-Deep or anything like that yet?
No, X-Deep haven't announced anything. I'm
Damn
still
you
looking.
guys.
They have named their regulator. I think it's like the DX700 or something. I saw that on one of their Instagram posts. So it's coming. It's been named. I don't have any dates or anything. And
interchangeable turrets. Oh.
Yeah, it's clever.
Yes, that is really cool.
Other than that, that's about it. February's kind of that quiet month. It's a little too early. It's not quite the dive season quite yet. Yeah. People are just kind of looking at their gear. They're pulling it out of their cupboards and going, "Ooh, I need to replace this," or they're getting it serviced ready. So there's not a great deal of new stuff kind of popping up, but. As soon as it is, we'll start talking about it on YouTube and the simplyscuba.com website.
Okay, so last bit, offers. What offers do we have? We got anything on at the moment?
I don't think so. No. Again, it's February. The manufacturers don't really do that kind much this time of year. You can usually rely on stuff like leading up to Black Friday and Christmas, but this time of year, no, they're just kind of focusing on their new range, making sure that's sort of up to scratch.
I'll tell you what question we do get quite a lot with regards to offers is people always say, have you got a discount on? And we'll say, oh yeah, we've got one on this week. Great, I want a Stunto, I want a Shearwater, I want all these kind of things, and they're not included in the offers, are they?
Oh no.
Why is that?
To be brutally honest, it's the margin on a lot of them. So it's a matter of, obviously, sure, we could offer discount on all these products. However, if we did, we wouldn't be able to pay. No. You and me, and
49p across the whole company just doesn't cut it. You're right.
You have to have this. You have to maintain margin, obviously. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, to be brutally honest, this is why we're seeing a lot of dive centres, especially in the UK. They're just disappearing because they can't maintain, because there's this general kind of like mentality of ethos, and where. Diver walks into a dive centre, I want this, that and the other. How much discount can you give me? Yeah. Okay, well, I can do this for you. And then they can't pay the bills. So we that's the one bugbear that I have about the scuba diving industry that we kind of need to get over. And granted, I'm sure it's the same in all different industries, but this is like high-tech equipment. Yeah. And every time you ask for a discount on this from sort of small dive centres, you're just killing them ever so slightly. So, if you can't afford it, just save up a little bit longer. Yeah. But no, a lot of the time we have sort of certain brands that we like to keep that kind of that value, so we don't just throw it in with all kind of discounts. That's basically why.
Cool. Right, so on to today's topic. So jacket style BCD versus wing style BCD. Now I'll be honest. Since I've been here, you've changed me in a good way.
The beating stick is definitely working.
The rule of thumb.
The rule of thumb beating stick.
I've always been jacket style. Always. Yeah. I've kind of grown up in the PADI system and then the SSI, and obviously teaching you need a jacket. But as time has gone on, wing style definitely is they are so cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's a lot of like you typically you start off in a jacket style, and because you're not buying it, it's given to you by the dive center. You're like, okay, well, this is how I scuba dive.
Yeah.
And then when you progress and you go on to sort of buy your own equipment, you're like, well, I learned to dive in a jacket.
Exactly.
So I'm going to get a jacket. And then you kind of say, oh, well, there's also wings available. And you go, but that doesn't look like what I learned to
but
dive
these
in.
have integrated weights. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's that kind of, that unknown. It's the other side of the fence. And it's like, the grass might be greener, but, I know I know a jacket works for me. But
it's a big step. It's a big step.
Yeah, because my very first BCD was a wing style BCD.
Okay.
And I've gone backwards and forwards, and I used to teach in a lot of jacket style BCDs, and yeah, they're fine. They do the job. It's just for like the modern diver, they're a little bit clunky, to be honest.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're very forgiving in sort of what position they hold you in the surface, but I've never had an issue with a wing style BCD, but the main benefit that I see in sort of wing styles is that you can have that sucker fully inflated on your back, and it doesn't impede you in any way.
Yeah.
My very first dive, and I think I mentioned this in the last podcast. My buddy at the time, we were both doing our open water dive 1 on Paddy, and we just had to do a surface swim out to a buoy to start the dive, and he almost had a panic attack because he just couldn't breathe. His BCD was fully inflated because he wanted to float, but because it was jacket style BCD, it just literally crushed his rib cage, so he couldn't inhale fully. So it ended well. They basically sort of loosened off his BCD. I think they maybe swapped him out for a bigger BCD, But yeah, with my wing, I've got I don't know, 20-something kilo, 40-pound wing on my back. That can be fully inflated, and I won't even know, only the fact that I'm floating on the surface. Sure. So, no, jackets, okay, they're good because they've got sort of pockets sort of in front of you, but realistically, they're awkward, and the more that you put into your pocket, the less positive buoyancy it can actually kick out. Sure, it can have, I don't know, 18 kilos of lift, but if the bag can't actually expand because you've got a mask in one and you've got a DSMB in the other, that can be only, I don't know, 15 kilos of lift. Yeah. So, yeah, it might give you that false sense of security. Granted, no one should ever need a full BCD to be positively buoyant on the surface, but I just prefer wings.
Yeah, I like the point you made the other week about if you do sort of rip your jacket, it's done. If you rip your wing, you can just get a new bladder and stuff like that, and it's very modular and sort of you can change it as you change, and I like that idea.
Yes, when you start getting into the sort of backplate and harness setup, it's very modular. It's not just pick a small, medium, or a large BCD, and there you go. You go, oh, okay, well, I'm diving at home. I want some sort of extra trim weight, so I'll get a stainless steel backplate. Or, oh, okay, I'm going to be traveling abroad, so I still want the strength, but that steel backplate, that's pretty heavy. Yeah. Oh, I'll go for this aluminium one. You can then pick your harness. If you want to go sort of true DIR, you just get a simple piece of webbing, and that's all you really have. Or you can get one with a break in the harness if you really want to, and then you can have a bit of adjustability. Or you can go to something that's pretty much a recreational BCD harness, but bolts onto a backplate.
Yeah, a bit like the Rogue.
Yes, you just kind of pick and choose, and this fits me. This is a bit more comfortable. Yeah, and then you just pick the size of wing, whether you're diving on singles or twins or side mount, and the best thing is that they typically, we're starting to see this a little bit in recreational BCDs, but sort of technical style wings, they'll have an external protective shell. Yeah, which its sole purpose is to protect your bladder from rips and tears, because if you're swimming in and out of sort of wrecks, or if you're swimming too close to a reef, you can rip a bladder pretty easy. I've done it myself without even noticing how. And this has got this like 2000 denier sort of Cordura material protecting it, and then inside you've got a pretty traditional bladder, which in itself is kind of abrasion resistant. But yeah, if you rip that as well, you bicycle repair kit, patch that up, you can pull it out. If it's beyond economical repair, just swap that out and fit a fresh one. It doesn't write off your entire BCD. It's more modular, as you say.
Yeah, and who doesn't want their bladder protected?
Yeah. As we age. Another thing that I prefer about sort of wing styles is the one, they pack down a lot easier. Trying to pack a jacket style BCD is just a pain in the neck. There's no bag that has a jacket BCD shaped section. And yeah, they hold you in a better position in the water. A lot of them nowadays, you'll see the word like toroidal for like the sort of donut wings, and basically most divers, they don't need much buoyancy or trim so that they're sort of up around their shoulders. If you have too much positive buoyancy, too much lift around your shoulders, you're just going to be in a head-up position throughout the entire dive, which is just a waste of energy. So a lot of them, they have a really skinny section up around your shoulders, and then it's really big and bulbous sort of around your kidneys, and that just holds you in a better position. It also wraps around your cylinder, so it stops your cylinder from moving around, and it's just better.
There's a lot more little things on it that makes more sense than the jacket over time.
There is a little bit more to learn about wings because they come in they come in 3 different styles really. You get either donut or horseshoe. Horseshoe are a bit old-fashioned. You don't tend to see too many of those anymore. Most of them are donuts, but then you get them for single cylinders or twins. You also get side mount ones, but they're very specialist. And there's no unicorn, unfortunately. There's no one wing that will do singles, twins, and side mounts. The main reason is lift. The next one is something that we call the taco effect, because if you buy a wing that's designed for twin sets, sure, it has plenty of lift for a single cylinder, but as soon as you only put one cylinder in the center of a twin wing, if you put any gas in that, it's just going to taco up around that cylinder. And you'll never be able to dump that gas unless you literally go vertical, shoulders up, knees down, and purge it. So you do kind of have to learn what kind of scuba diver you're going to be. If you're only going to dive singles, great, just go for a single wing. If you are going to go down the twin route, then go for twins. So you kind of have to make your choice. But other than that, if you haven't got the message yet, buy a wing style BCD. I mean, you still get recreational wings. I used to dive on one. I loved it to bits, to the point where it fell apart. They're definitely worth investing in. To be brutally honest, I'd never buy a jacket style. I dive a jacket style. If I was going somewhere and they handed me a rental BCD on its jacket, I wouldn't be all snobby and go, don't touch me with that. I'd go scuba diving in it, but I just prefer wings. It's the way the world. I'm seeing more and more dive centres, when they invest in their school equipment, they're actually turning over to wings. So you're learning in a wing style BCD from the scratch. And there's even a handful that are doing backplate and harness sort of systems from scratch. So I think the dive sort of industry or the training industry is gradually kind of shifting.
There's definitely more interest for the technical side of it. Once you've done the rec side, I saw that quite a lot as just before I left Thailand. But people are really into that now.
Even for recreational dives, you're not diving to 100 meters or cave diving or whatever on every single dive, but it still does the job.
It's learning the techniques as well at sort of a shallow depth. It's nice.
So that's our topic. So we're going to move on to our today's sponsor. So our today's sponsor is called Obsequio Limited, and they basically service equipment, but they're a little bit different. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of dive centres are sort of closing in the UK especially, so it can be quite hard to find somewhere to actually service your equipment. And what a lot of people don't understand is the fact that each dive centre, you can't just bring them any set of regulator, they actually have to have a trained technician who can sort of service your brand of equipment. So it's quite important to find somewhere that can service your equipment, and this is where Obsequio steps in. So owning your own dive equipment means that you need to look after and maintain it. Finding a great dive center that can service all of your equipment nearby can be tricky, but with Obsequio servicing, you don't need to travel much farther than your keyboard. Obsequio can service your regulators, dive computers, cylinders, and even rebreathers. Unlike other dive centers, Obsequio collects your gear from you. They service it and bring it back to you, and they post their current turnaround times at the top of their website so that you know how long it should take. To check them out and to get your gear serviced, just click on the link pinned in the comments below on our YouTube channel. So you can also head over to simplyscuba.com and search for Obsequio. It's a great service, and it makes your life easy. Instead of having to like drop off your regulators and your cylinder or whatnot at different dive centers for whatever reason, and constantly calling them up, kind of saying, "Oh, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet?" No, you look on their website and they're like, "Right, our current turnaround time is 2 weeks." So you go, "Cool." You kind of go through the website, you book your stuff in. They basically give you a sticky label to put onto a box. Someone comes, they collect your dive gear, goes to Obsequio, they service it, they then sort of send it back. Happy days.
Easy.
Oh, pardon me.
Yeah, you're right then.
Yeah. Okay, so now on to your questions and comments. What have we got?
So this was about the Affordable Luxury Travel channel, about the Scuba Pro S600 second stage. How do you compare it with the S620 Ti? What do you reckon?
Well, the S620 Ti is an upgraded version of the S600, so it's obviously better. It's the S620 Ti is basically a hybrid. So about 2, maybe 3 years ago, the Scuba Pro range was the 095, the 195. They had the G260, the S600, and the A700. That was kind of their range, from the kind of cheap Octo up to their pristine A700. The S600 sat in that really nice sort of Goldilocks position. It's a really nice second stage, and it wasn't the most expensive. To be brutally honest, it's a G260 with a different sort of front cover. But the G260 is a bit more industrial, that kind of techie sort of design. So most recreational divers went for the S600. And then Scuba Pro kind of looked at their range and they said, right, well, if we take, I can't remember which way round it was, but it's basically the big diaphragm from the S600, but if we take a titanium barrel, we take this feature from the A700, we take this one from the G260 or whatnot, and they slapped on a brand new exhaust tee, and they released this, the S620 Ti. It reduces your work of breathing by 20-something%, which just means that it's an easier breathe because you've got the titanium barrel in the center instead of marine grade brass. It's a little bit lighter, but it's also corrosion resistant. Titanium can't rust. It's the S600 just dialed to 11. It's just that little bit better. It's a lovely second stage.
It's really nice. They've improved the cold water performance of it, haven't they?
Yes.
30% they reckon. Yeah, which is quite a big percentage.
You kind of throw these kind of numbers around, but when you actually look down into it and look at like the ANSTI test results, you're like, wow. Actually, that's quite really cool. Swish. I mean, not to say that the S600 is a bad second stage, but the S620 is just that little bit better. If you want something fancy, then go for the S620.
Right, so the next one's from Doomy1234, and this is from the video "Canada, You're Amazing" on the Daily Scuba News. So this was about the fact that Canada are no longer going to have whales and dolphins and stuff like that in captivity, and they're not going to try and breed them in captivity, and they're going to try and move away from all that, possibly because of the movie Blackfish, which They got so many.
Realistically,
really
yeah,
bad,
that
really
would be
bad.
why.
So are you sure? So this, are you sure it's a good idea? I mean, if their numbers are in the wild fall low, won't we be able to assist their reproduction?
Yeah.
Go on, you go.
So I actually studied pretty much this in university, and yes, zoos do have their benefits. They're not saying that they're not going to keep any cetaceans or anything ever again. It's a matter of they're not going to breed them for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
So they're still going to, if there's an injured cetacean, a porpoise, a dolphin, a whale, whatever, they'll still kind of take it in and they'll look after it. If it's healthy enough to go back into the wild, they'll release it. But if it's not, then they will kind of maintain it. And yeah, there is a definite argument for dropping population out in the wild to keep certain bloodlines in captivity so that we can maintain certain species. It's a big sort of balancing act, but the main thing is that they're not being kept for entertainment purposes, and that's kind of what they're banning. So it's not black and white, but yes,
because they do live not as long in captivity, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah,
they live much longer out in the wild, but it's not an easy situation. But I think this is a step in the right
pros
direction.
and cons for each one. Yeah, definitely. And could we be able to assist with their reproduction? If you've seen Blackfin, no, you need a bin bag.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
Yeah,
they couldn't pay me enough.
No.
I don't care how cool the whistle is hanging around my neck. I'm still not doing that.
Sajari Ball, moving swiftly on, asks on the video Aqualung I200C dive computer review. I went diving with this dive computer today. It didn't activate, stayed in time mode. It's only a couple of months old. Have you heard of this happening before? I can think of 3 reasons why this might happen. And I'm not 100% on the functions of the I200, but this is a possibility. It's possible that it's in just time mode. A lot of dive computers, especially watch-size dive computers, will have an off or just a dedicated time mode, which basically switches off the water contact activation. So it could be that, and because basically for me, I used to switch it on whenever I was doing pool dives because my dive computer would go down to 3 meters. I then sort of come up to sort of talk to the students again, and it would just lock me out for 48 hours because it thinks I'm doing this jigsaw bounce dive. And if you're swimming with your watch, you don't want it to activate every time you do a stroke. So it's quite good to have an off mode if you're wearing these watches day to day. So it could be that. An alternate could be that you exceeded some kind of stop. A dive computer will often lock you out for sort of anywhere up to 48 hours if you miss a decompression stop or if you ascend too fast. So it could be that.
We had one a little while ago. It was set in free dive mode by mistake, and then that locked them out for 24 hours.
That will definitely do it. Dive computers don't like it when you sort of swap between modes because all it's trying to do is keep you safe. And as soon as you change the modes into free dive apnea mode, it's switching off the decompression sort of model inside of it, so it doesn't know how much nitrogen is in your system. So they get very upset when you sort of dive at engage or apnea mode. And it might just be faulty.
Could well be.
The pressure sensor on a dive computer is usually the thing that might go wrong on a dive computer. If you've got a dive computer and it continues to say that you're at depth even though you're at your office desk, then the pressure sensor is probably gone. If it doesn't register any change in pressure as you start to go down, it might be sort of faulty. So it's worth taking it to your local Aqualung dive centre, and they'll take a look at it, or they'll send it back to Aqualung.
Get it checked out.
But the important thing is to not dive with it, just in case, because you need to stay safe.
Yes, definitely.
Paul Clissold on the video Mara's XR single back mount review asks, what inflator do you prefer and why? So in this review, I talk about it's a Mara's backplate and harness, like complete single cylinder kit, and it's got a Mara's inflator on it. And I think I mentioned that I prefer a more standard K-style inflator.
Yeah.
No particular reason other than just kind of personal preference.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a standard K-style inflator, which if you search for it, it's just the real like simple inflator.
Yeah, yeah.
And mainly because I can pull it apart and I can service it myself. That's the only reason. It's not. I wouldn't not buy it because it has a different inflator. But I like a K. What's your favourite, Greg?
Well, I'm only really using the jackets at the moment. So
Yeah, I mean, I quite like Scuba Probe's balance power inflator, their BPI, because that's got a hinged inflator button and a really big sort of grey deflate button. But they're all fine.
Yeah, I suppose the only thing, if you were diving with somebody that hadn't really, and they're like, what was that? I mean, that would be where the issue might be. Something like along those lines.
Yeah, as a general rule of thumb, I've learnt that the button that's closest to where the inflator hose actually connects, that's your inflate, and the button closest towards the tip of the inflator, that's your dump button. But other than that, they come in all different shapes, sizes, and colours. There are some that I dislike, but we won't talk about that.
Occasionally, it's standard, isn't it? Right, so Matt Vish, this is from the video with Scuba Diving Tech Behind the Times. What is the possible realistic future scenarios for scuba? Rebreathers getting safer and affordable and made for the mainstream. What do you reckon?
Yeah, there was a big push.
The helmet.
A few, that hydroid. I can't see that as the future. No. That'll be a few years. I mean,
possibly a thing.
I mean, like decades. Yeah, but realistically, yes, I can see sort of rebreathers coming in. I know Hollie tried to make their Explorer, the SCR, the semi-closed rebreather, much more affordable. And it was. I used it. It's a great little machine, and it's a good way to kind of get people into rebreathers.
Yeah.
They even, if you look at the new PADI logbooks from the like entry level open water, your like learning guide, they actually have like diluent levels and O2 sort of levels and whatnot. So you can just start off on rebreathers because open circuit teaches you some bad habits that don't work on rebreathers, like breathing to change your buoyancy. Nothing happens when you're on a closed circuit. You inhale and you just stay exactly there. You exhale, you stay exactly there. That's why photographers love them. But I can definitely see rebreathers sort of becoming more affordable and more accessible. Better exposure protection. We're coming out with new materials that are sort of warmer and lighter, less buoyant, and dive computers are just going to be smarter. We're starting to see tailored algorithms like on the Scuba Probe, on the Mantis and a few of their dive computers. They come with a heart rate monitor and a skin temperature sensor. And basically, if you're somewhere nice and warm and you're not working too hard, it goes, oh, you know what, you can stay down a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But if you're in Norway and you're swimming against a current, it's like, you're pretty cold.
You're done.
You're working really hard. It's probably best if you get out now.
Yeah.
So I can see a lot of that coming in the future. More masks are having special treatments like UV protective lenses, fins. Every time I say that they've reached a pinnacle, they do something new. BCDs, I can't imagine them changing that much. Just small little tweaks.
Heads-up displays, that'll start to...
Yeah.
Because at the moment, they're huge.
Yeah. HUDs. I mean, the first HUD that I ever saw was the Oceanic Data Mask. And I get the concept, but it just meant that you had to buy that mask and that had to fit you. And it's good for instructors so that you can just sort of glance down without having to look at your wrist. You can have your hands free. but the market has never really gone, wow, a HUD, yeah, I want, and they've gone and then they've bought loads of them. It's that kind of thing that someone goes, oh yeah, that's nifty, they've bought it, but
yeah, they're still very, very clunky.
Yeah. Other than that, no, I think unless they can come up with a lightweight lead that we can dive with, because most people don't realise that bare lead just leaches all these toxins into the water, which is awful. So yeah, if we can find an alternate for lead for negative buoyancy, that would be a benefit. But
Might be nice if Apple started doing gills. That'd be nice.
One day.
Yeah.
You don't even need a tank. That would be great.
Yeah, a pill for nitrogen buildup. That'd be great.
I think I said that years and years ago. What would be great is just a pill so that you could take it and that would just, you didn't absorb any excess gas, so you didn't have to worry about decompression. That and the
got
that
to come up with barnacles on you.
I got lost. That pink fluid that's what's his name has at the end of the abyss, the like hydrofluoro something or other.
They do that with planes, don't they? Yeah. So it negates the G-force. It's scary stuff.
I love the concept, but I wouldn't want to be that rat in the box.
Right. So this is from Nicholas Simonet about the Scuba Probe Mark 11. The C370 review. So what would be your recommendation between the Mark 11 C370 and the Quaking Micron for tempered water? What do you reckon?
I think it means the Aqualung Micron for temperate water. I think autocorrect doesn't like Aqualung.
Which is brilliant because the last one is great as well.
It's like, did you mean the Quaking Micron? Okay, so these are both sort of they're travel regulators, the Micron especially. The Micron is basically a regulator set with everything just kind of like scaled down. So it's a little bit smaller. And what that has done, unfortunately, it has changed its EN250A rating to mean that you have to dive it above 10 degrees Celsius, which I know isn't particularly warm, and it's not really where they're supposed to dive, but it does affect the overall sort of functionality of the regulators. Whereas the Mark 11, the Scuba Pro, the C370, is cold water rated, so that's an immediate sort of thing that steps out for me. Second stage is I have dived the Micron. I have not dived the C370, to be honest. I've used it on the surface, but not underwater. They're both fairly compact. The C370, you can change both the venturi and the breathing adjustment. I could be wrong, but on the Micron, you can only do the breathing adjustment. I don't think it has a venturi lever on it. Other than that,
I know the Mark 11's the lighter one of the two, and that needs a 2-year service, and the Micron needs a 1-year service, and Micron only comes in DIN.
Although I'd only dive DIN. That's a topic for another day. DIN versus A-clamp.
That would make a great video.
We should do a poll on that and sort of see how many people sort of vote DIN over A-clamp. I know which way I'd go. I'd go for the Scuba Pro. You only have to service it every other year, and it can go in colder waters. Doesn't mean that you have to, but it does mean that it improves the overall performance.
Swings and roundabouts.
That's it. They'll both do the same thing. The Micron isn't a bad regulator, but when you hold it up against that one, it's got different features, and it doesn't. Team Pegleg.
Yes.
On the video, February 2020 new dive gear asks, is the base boot just an update? Because I've been using a pair almost identical to that since August 2018. This is actually quite an interesting question. So the base boot is a Scuba Pro boot. It's like a 4mm boot. And the thing is that it's new to us here in the UK, but brands will have different ranges available depending on where you are. So I'm almost guessing that you're from the States, because America does like to test out a new, Scuba Pro America likes to test out a lot of their new concepts in the States. and then if they do well, then they roll them out into sort of the rest of their regions. So this is the first time that that EMEA has seen the base boot, I believe. I don't remember it in the 2018 or the 2017 lineups, but yeah, there is a real there's a real chance that it has been out for quite a while. It's just new to us, so we like talking about it.
Yeah. Right, so let's do this last one. Someone poisoned the water hole. And this was a video, 8 ways to fail your open water test. And so there is definitely some spelling mistakes here.
Okay.
I want to dive so bad before I die. Oh.
Yeah,
I'm
who wouldn't?
57, yeah, in good shape and work out. Now, this is a bit that confused us. I head math and dive medicine is hard.
He counts in his head. He doesn't use calculators. I think he means I hate maths.
Yeah.
And is the dive medicine hard? Okay, so the first thing is there's no upper limits or no upper age limits on scuba diving. The only thing that you'll have is basically go to your local dive centre and talk with them. Yeah. To sign up for a course, you'll have to do a what's it called, the diver medical form.
Oh, waiver.
Yeah, where it basically goes through all different sort of possible medical conditions, from asthma to all sorts of different things, and you go through this self-declaration and basically go, no, I'm all sort of fit and healthy, which by the sounds of it you are. But if you do have anything that is on the list, you kind of mark it down, and then you go see a doctor. You discuss it with them. Yeah. If the doctor says, yeah, it shouldn't be a problem, they sign it off, and then you sort of go. There's not that much maths. The dive equipment nowadays, the computers that we use, it does it all for you.
It does it for you. I'm from Croydon, I can do it.
The course itself, not to sort of throw shade on anyone, but it's designed for 8-year-olds, or actually 10-year-olds realistically. You can kind of start when you're 8, but you can only qualify when you're 10. So it's pretty simple. So no, you don't have to do that much like maths in your head. I wouldn't worry about that. And no, it's not hard. There are a few do's and don'ts. There's the 3 golden rules of scuba diving. The first one is don't hold your breath. Second one is don't go down too long, and don't come up too fast. They're the kind of the 3 golden rules, really. Yeah. There is, of course, a lot more into it, but as long as you're diving recreationally and sensibly, it's not going to be an issue. Your dive computer is going to keep you safe. So yeah, I would sort of recommend giving it a go. I also have one more question that isn't on the list, because this came through on my Instagram actually, at Safe Diving, and this comes from Serious Music. And he says, hi, Mark, question for you, and maybe if you have any advice. I was using too much lead on my first few 9 or 10 dives. I was using my low-pressure inflator over and over, trying to get neutral buoyancy, all the while depleting my air quantity. On my last trip, I removed some lead and I would sink, but I had a horrendous time trying to descend fully. I'm apparently not good at exhaling completely and holding it. I always end up taking a huge breath after a couple of seconds. Any tips on descending with the bare minimum lead you need to hold you down for someone who isn't good at exhaling out all of my air and holding with no air at all?
Cool. Breathing techniques definitely help. Relaxing is going to be your main thing. Obviously, you're doing the right thing by removing some weights and not playing around with you. But yeah, it's just going to take time. It just the more you dive, the more you get used to it, the more you relax, the more you're breathing on a more regular pace. And yeah, you just kind of find your groove, don't you, really?
Yeah. The first few meters or the first like 10 feet,
definitely the hardest,
they suck because you're the most buoyant, especially after you've just jumped in, because you're still going to have air under your wetsuit. Your dry suit has probably still got a bit of excess air, so you're still quite buoyant. So for that first few meters, I basically push up. And this is from like a free diving sort of stance. If you sort of go to fin kick yourself up out of the surface, all of that sort of upwards momentum, then goes down. And then from that, I try and like swim down in like a duck dive. And once you're down to like 5 meters, you should be able to stay there.
The worst is over.
Yeah, and it is quite good practice to practice holding your breath with empty lungs. I used to do it quite often. And you'll be surprised how long you can last with empty lungs. Yeah. Your brain will tell you, oh, CO2 levels are rising, you should really take a breath. But actually, you can kind of switch that little voice off for a little bit. Yeah. Obviously, you don't hurt yourself, but it's quite good because basically if your regulator fails, it's not going to fail just after you've taken a big lungful of air. It's going to fail as you're exhaling, and then you try and take another breath and nothing comes in. So you've got an empty lungful. You've then got to swim over to your buddy and secure their octo, get it in the right position. So if you can practice being empty lunged, it's actually quite a good thing. Not that you have to do it all the time, but yeah, just kind of get your body used to it, and that can
gives you that mental preparation, doesn't it? Just in case.
Gives you a bit more time, and it might get you out of dodge. Yeah. And that's it as far as questions. If you've got any questions, comments, queries, or whatnot, anything you want to ask us, anything you want us to talk about, head over to the Simply Scuba YouTube channel. Any one of the videos, this one included, and put your sort of question, comment, query, correction down in there, and we will talk about it in next week's show. So first of all, thank you to Obsequio for sponsoring today's episode. If you need any of your dive equipment serviced, this is mainly in the UK, so sorry everyone else. Then head over to the Simply Scuba store, and we've got a banner for Obsequio that you can click on. The next episode of the deep dive, where the girls will be talking about tips on becoming a rescue diver. So rescue diver is a really nice kind of level where a lot of recreational divers kind of hit and stay at that. Because
that's kind of everything you need, unless you're going to start teaching.
You are a very effective diver.
Yes.
At rescue diver.
You have accentuated your circles.
Exactly. Don't forget to follow us on Radio Public. So if you're not listening to us on Radio Public at the moment, head over to the App Store and type in Radio Public and download that, and you can listen to our podcast on that on the go. Also follow us on Spotify as well. This is where I think most people tend to be listening to the podcast, but I could be wrong. Prove me wrong. Let me know in the comments below. Rate us on iTunes as well. That really helps us out, especially if you're listening to us on iTunes. If not, just take 5 minutes out of your day, go to iTunes and search for the Deco Stop, and then just hit that 5 stars. Whether you listen to it or not, that would be really nice. Don't forget, again, pop your questions in the comments on YouTube. Share this podcast with all your scuba diving friends to help spread the word. Thank you for watching, and safe diving.
See you guys.
The Deco Stop podcast is produced and recorded by Simply Scuba, the UK's #1 dive store. Visit today at simplyscuba.com.
Had a tooth taken out and then had to go for a dive. Cold compressed air.
There's nothing worse than like having a filling and then going on a dive, because you don't know if your dentist has done a decent job. That's another task that most people haven't really considered.